Welcome to Green TV, the show that focuses on independent Green Party and Green Party candidates for office and positive Green New Deal, eco-job solutions for the economy, solar jobs, wind jobs, rail jobs, geothermal jobs, efficiency jobs, conservation jobs. I'm Kerry Campbell. With me on the show today, Gail Parker of the Independent Green Party of Virginia. And we are absolutely thrilled to have with us City Councilwoman Gayle McLaughlin of the Green Party, City Councilwoman Gayle McLaughlin of Richmond, California. Gayle McLaughlin served one term on City Council and then ran for mayor of Richmond, California, and was subsequently re-elected. And California has term limits. And she was term limited out of office and ran again for City Council and was re-elected. Gayle McLaughlin, thank you so much for joining us today on Independent Green Party, Green TV.
Thank you, Kerry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Gayle McLaughlin, let's start off with your background here. I have to put my glasses on for this. You are a native of Chicago, Illinois. You were first elected to mayor November 7th, 2006. It says here by a margin of 242 votes.
Right, yeah. In 2006, I was elected against the incumbent, and we ran a hard campaign, and we squeaked by and won that race. And then in 2010, I was reelected as mayor and served another 4 years. So it was an honor to do so.
Let's back up and tell us, Gayle McLaughlin, if you would please, tell us where you were born, where you grew up, and where you went to school, and then, of course, segue there into how you went into politics. So where you born, where you grew up.
Sure, yeah. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and grew up going to, I went to a Catholic elementary school, but then public high school. Had a really good experience growing up for the most part, but I did see a lot of injustices around me, so I kind of grew up with a set of values to change society. Once I graduated from high school, I went to a number of colleges, including Champaign-Urbana University of Illinois and DePaul University in Chicago for a while, and eventually dropped out of school because, as many did in my era of the Vietnam War era, and because we were active. We wanted to be more active in the community and in the anti-war movement. So for years then, I worked at various jobs, but my activism was my primary focus. I was involved with the Central American anti-war movement in the 80s, was involved with anti-racist work, anti-sexist work. Went back to school in the 90s to finish my degree in psychology, and then after did some graduate work in psychology as well, and then came out to California in the mid-90s and met my husband out here, and he had already been living in Richmond. I moved in with him and got to know Richmond and what Richmond was all about, and clearly Richmond is similar to Chicago in a smaller way, and the diversity that Chicago has is certainly what we experience in Richmond. In fact, we're a majority people of color community. We have 40% Latinos and 27% African Americans. So I started getting active locally, and from there I went to deciding to run for council. People in the group of Greens that I was involved with, we were very involved in national issues, anti-war around the Iraq war situation, but also locally. And it was like, well, if we had somebody inside the city council, as well as our movement outside the city council, we could really accomplish so much more. And someone asked me to run, and after giving it some thought, I said, all right, I'll go for this, not thinking I would win, but thanks to a really strong and wonderful grassroots movement, I won, and that got me started to, eventually move on to running for mayor, and then again wanting to stay in the work running for city council even after I termed out as mayor.
Right, exactly. Yes. Gail Ferrell Parker now.
Yes, Gail, it sounds like you're getting into politics was a natural evolution. But tell us about what was the biggest challenge of being mayor of Richmond, California?
Well, you know, Richmond has a history really of an incredible injustices that has been foisted upon our community. First of all, we have this large oil refinery, the Chevron Richmond oil refinery, which is the largest greenhouse gas emitter in the state of California, and which puts out tons of pollutants every day, every year into our air, and has, given us both a bad reputation or a bad image of a city with this polluting refinery, but has also, and more importantly, impacted in a negative way the health of our community. We have among the highest rates of asthma and heart disease and cancer, especially around the refinery. So we have this big oil giant that presents a challenge for us, but also the injustices of social, racial, and economic injustice is something that Richmond has struggled with. We're rising from that, and we had the accompanying violence that comes from urban environments where these injustices persist, and it often erupts on city streets in violence, kind of a despair and desperation of youth. So that was some of the challenges we faced 10 years ago when I first started, when I first got into office, and we as a movement tackled. And we've made such great progress. Like our crime rate went down 75%. Our homicide number went down 75%. We have the lowest homicide number that we've had in something like 40 years. And it's because we address the roots of our violence. We give people opportunities. We intervene in situations before they get to eruptive into a hostile situation, a violent situation. So and we have a community involved police force that our police chief actually went to Ferguson to give some advice to how the police department should be acting in regard to people in general, the community in general, and rather than posing these racist types of approaches to people who are just trying to live their lives and go about their everyday experience.
You're watching Green TV, Independent Green Party, Green TV with Gail Ferrell Parker, the Independent Green Party. I'm Kerry Campbell of the Independent Green Party. And with us on the show today is Gayle McLaughlin, former mayor of Richmond, California, current city councilwoman of Richmond, California, and one of the Green Party's leading lights in the United States. Gayle McLaughlin, that was an excellent question, Gail Ferrell Parker. I sort of chuckled when you asked the question because I thought, gee, I'm glad it's Gayle McLaughlin answering this and not me. That's a tough question to single out your biggest problem. I just got a Facebook post yesterday from the 9th Congressional District Chairman of the Independent Green Party, Tex Wood, about what you just described, Gayle McLaughlin, the success of nonviolence training, the success of intervening before something negative happens. And there is also, if I understood the post right, some economic help that the city of Richmond gives folks. Is that correct, Gayle McLaughlin?
Yeah, so we actually have a really interesting program that's been a big success. It's part of our Office of Neighborhood Safety. It's called the Peace Fellowship Program. And some of the individuals who are most have already had a troubled background with the police, youth that are really the most at risk for continuing to go down the road and end up in either dead or in prison. We have, through this Office of Neighborhood Safety, embraced these young men and given them opportunities to turn their lives around through really an intensive workshop type day in and day out program. They have to work their program and they get a stipend for it. They get it, you know, I think it's $1,000 a month. And this gives them a sense of, hey, there is a chance for us. It was somewhat controversial at first, but they have a tough program and they have to showcase that they are committed to turning things around for themselves and being a part of making change in the community. And it's had great results. Most of these young men who are in this program have not committed additional crimes, and they have stayed clean and sober and all the things that they've been working on with mentors in the program itself. So we're very proud of that.
Gayle McLaughlin, Green Party City Councilwoman, Richmond, California. Gayle McLaughlin, as I listen to you there, I think the investment that Richmond, California has put into these people really has reaped benefits, rewards for the community.
Absolutely, yeah, that's how we see it. If you invest in community rather than in prisons, for example, you're going to reap good results. And we had a huge movement in the city of Richmond when a certain amount of money in California has been allocated from the state to counties. And, we had a whole realignment of law enforcement services that the state of California put forward. And part of it was this allocation of money to counties. And the sheriff of our county wanted to put the money into building a new prison and a new jail. And the community, and we do have a really strong community effort in Richmond, got together and started going to all the meetings and protesting, having rallies, saying invest in people, not in prisons. And we finally changed the mind of the sheriff. I mean, our police chief was part of that kind of, there was like a stakeholders group, and he was with the community from the get-go, as was I, as mayor at the time. And we had to get the sheriff to change his mind. We did, and now we have that money for re-entry services. And we're building a one-stop center in Richmond so that when folks come out of prison, they will have this one-stop center that guides them to housing and job training and job opportunities and substance abuse programs, whatever they need to keep them in a good direction in their lives. So we have many things going on, and we're very committed to continuing to reduce our crime to a zero homicide number and zero crime. We think we have the capacity with our community and staff and dedicated elected officials.
Gayle McLaughlin, as one of the most successful Green Party office holders in the United States over a longer term, Gail Farrell Parker is running for local office this year in Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, as am I, and we have a long list. Gail, do you want to mention some of the names? A long list of independent Green Party candidates running for local office, state office this year, and all of them, once Gail mentions them, all of them will be eagerly watching this program. So as Gail reads their names, Gayle McLaughlin, as Gail Farrell reads their names, please be thinking about your advice for all of us to emulate your success.
Right. We have Albert Burkhart in the Isle of Wight County Board of Supervisors, Aaron Lyles in Roanoke, the Botetourt County School Board, Carrie Campbell, who's running for Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, myself. Marissa Wassar is also running in Sully District, I believe.
Right.
Joe Galdo, Green Party, Fairfax County. Chris DiCarlo. Tariq Salahi in Warren County. Pete Marchetti, Fairfax County. Dr. Catherine Pettigrew, Fairfax County School Board. Jesse Ray Whitaker, Dr. Audrey Clements. House of Delegates, we have Joseph P. Odo.
And we have many more candidates.
Yes.
Gayle McLaughlin for House of Delegates state legislative elections this year in Virginia and State Senate. Now you've had time to think about your answer, Gayle McLaughlin. Have at it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I encourage you all to continue to move forward, letting your values lead the way. That's the first piece of advice I have. We in Richmond have been doing this for a while now. I mean, it was 2004 when I first ran, and the way we accomplished things was by building a movement. And the way we did it was to form the Richmond Progressive Alliance. And the Richmond Progressive Alliance is an alliance of people from different parties, but people who are grounded in their values and their progressive values. And so we came together and we agreed that no candidate of the Richmond Progressive Alliance would take any corporate donations. That's a rule that we've held to. And so we ran candidates, and I won all my campaigns. Others have also won their campaigns, and it's done by way of things that I'm sure all of you do as well, and by knocking on doors, by being out in the community, by phone calls, by reaching out to people, sharing our values, sharing the fact that that we put people before corporations. And that resonates. I mean, I'll never forget when I first ran for city council, how people's eyes kind of opened up when I said, I take no corporate donations. They were so used to in Richmond. Richmond used to be a company town, a Chevron company town, and Chevron has always influenced our elections. So people knew that Chevron dominated the electoral scene by throwing money behind certain candidates. So when we said we make it a vow and it's our part of who we are, not taking donations from any corporation, they were impressed. And their values were our values, ours were theirs. And over the years, that Richmond Progressive Alliance movement built. As I worked inside the city council and as mayor, being at every community event, showcasing that I am for building a movement, I can make space for community empowerment as mayor, as a city council person, showcase that voice of the community is very important to me, and I will hear it and register my votes on the city council based on the community's needs. That has been how we built things. We have, in 2014, had our biggest success. Chevron spent over $3 million to try and defeat the progressive movement in Richmond because they're very threatened, and that's something to expect. When you have successes with people who lead by their values and cannot be bought off, and with a community of empowered citizens, those big corporations feel threatened. They feel like, we can't have a community doing their own thing, defining their own destiny. That's antithetical to how a corporate society is run. Yeah. So we just recognize that. They attack us in the elections. They try and put us down. They tell lies and provide all this distortion. But we come back, we use the amount of money that we have, which is just from individuals, from some unions and environmental groups, and we use it very wisely and efficiently, and we use people power very wisely and efficiently. And we've managed to overcome them. All of Chevron's candidates lost in 2014, and all of the progressives won. So it's in the face of a kind of a negative, or not kind of, but a totally negative national electoral situation in November 2014. We think we were, one of the few shining lights. And so we feel a sense of responsibility because we know we can't do it alone. So I applaud all of you. And I know that effort that we are doing is very similar to what you're doing.
Gayle McLaughlin, I know Gail for Rail's eager to ask about Rail. I wanted to, may I, Gail, just one more time? Gayle McLaughlin, make this one short. Didn't Chevron sue you while you were mayor?
Chevron didn't sue me. Chevron actually. there was a couple. We're suing Chevron right now
Okay.
because of a fire in
Right, the big
2012.
fire.
So that's probably what you're thinking of. The 2012 fire that sent 15,000 people for treatment at local hospitals. We are in the process of suing Chevron for that. There have been other suits that the community has waged against Chevron for the harm that they have caused. But this is one that the city of Richmond, and we hope to get a really beneficial ruling on that.
Gail, is Richmond one of the cities that will be served by high-speed rail? Are you supporting
Actually,
high-speed?
we have discussed, various types of rail in Richmond. Right now, I thought you were going to ask about the crude by rail.
Yeah.
We have some issues with that in terms of rail coming through with Bakken crude on it that we're fighting back really, really strongly on. But in terms of some positive rail configuration, there's some ideas that have been floated around that we've looked at, but nothing has really taken a firm step forward.
Perhaps a light rail feeder system that would feed into the higher speed rail or high speed rail?
Right. Those are the kind of things that we have looked at. There's something called Cybertran that's a company in Richmond that is trying to get funding to do a light rail, that kind of a pilot in Richmond. They have an idea for, advancing it throughout the Bay Area and eventually the nation, I think. But it seems like an interesting project, and we've supported it. At this point, they're still trying to gain momentum and funding for it.
Gayle McLaughlin, Green Party City Councilwoman, Richmond, California. Gayle McLaughlin, let's take the conversation to what you discussed on Bill Moyer's show a while back, and that is the effort you made in the Richmond city government to keep people in their homes during this foreclosure phase. Tell us what you did and what kind of positive solutions you provided and success that your policy brought.
Right. Well, Richmond was hit really hard by the foreclosure crisis. Still, it's about 1 in 5 or so homes in Richmond are severely underwater. We have a lot of delinquent mortgages where people, are really on the brink of foreclosure. So there's a couple of programs, and I'll start out with the one that you're referring to, and then tell you about a newer program, and I'll keep it short. Okay. The program you're referring to is called the CARES program, Community Action to Restore Equity and Stability in the City, and it's otherwise known as the Eminent Domain Program. And it's a program whereby the city would acquire mortgages, underwater mortgages. We seek the banks to do it voluntarily, to sell us these mortgages, which are really junk mortgages, really mortgages that are, not worth anything because they're worth much since they're so underwater. Sell them to the city voluntarily. If they won't, we're saying, hey, we will utilize our eminent domain powers to acquire these mortgages. The homeowner stays in their home. The city acquires the mortgage, reduces the principal in line with current home values, and the homeowner, we help the homeowner refinance in terms of a affordable mortgage with affordable payments. Now, we haven't actually put it in play yet. We're working to try and get other cities, and San Francisco is considering it, and Newark, New Jersey is, to join us in it. We figure the banks will bring it to court, and we feel we have the strong legal law on our side. But at this point, we haven't moved forward with it. And one of the reasons is because we have another program that we're moving forward, which is working with a nonprofit that there's a few nonprofits in the country that have acquired enough capital to purchase these loans themselves. And that at the same time keeping homeowners in their homes just like the city would, and reducing the principal, and helping the homeowner have an affordable mortgage. So right now we are working with these nonprofits because they the eminent domain program was really only for deeply underwater homes. This one are mortgages. This one is for delinquent mortgages as well. And there are a lot of people just really who will, if we don't do something, will lose their homes right now because they're already delinquent and ready for foreclosure. So we're moving forward with this nonprofit approach. We're keeping the eminent domain program alive because we know there's other people that, can't. The nonprofit program is a little different in that it would not, they cannot use eminent domain. Only the city can use eminent domain. So we're keeping both programs alive.
And widely reported as a model, Sherry Honkala was a Green Party candidate. You may recall who ran for sheriff in Philadelphia. And Sherry's platform was something like yours, I guess a bit different in that she told folks if they elected her sheriff, she would refuse to foreclose on people's homes. Fortunately, things are going a bit better now. One other program, Gayle McLaughlin of the Green Party in Richmond, California, that when you were mayor, you worked with Michael Bloomberg and various other mayors on this guns initiative. Can you tell us a bit about that, Gayle McLaughlin?
Yeah, I was a member of the Mayors Against, I forgot the name of it, but it was a group of mayors that was very clear that we wanted to get guns out of the hands of people that could use them to harm the their neighbors and our community as a whole. So yeah, it was very important to me and to our community in Richmond that we get as many guns off the streets as possible. So I did join that group. I think most of our work in Richmond to try and stop violence was apart from that, but that was something that I felt it was important to stand with other mayors who wanted to bring forward a safe and healthy community by getting guns off the streets as well.
Gayle McLaughlin, thank you. Congratulate you first and foremost on all your good works and good deeds and extraordinary success as a city councilwoman and mayor in Richmond and California. We are honored to have had you here on Green TV, Independent Green Party, Green TV with us today. Gail Farrell, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, ma'am, once again. We flew the ship without crashing it. Gayle McLaughlin, thanks. We look forward to having you. Will you come back, Gayle McLaughlin, please?
Well, I certainly will. Thank you both for having me and for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Gayle McLaughlin and friends.